Lesson number 9 for Tuesday, February 28th. The Heart of Judas. One of the most tragic stories in the Bible is that of Judas Iscariot. This man had a privilege that only 11 other people in all the history of the world have had: to have been with Jesus all that time and to have learned eternal truths directly from the Master himself. How sad that many people who never had anything remotely like the opportunities that Judas had will be saved, while Judas, we know, is now destined for eternal destruction. What happened? The answer can be found in one word: covetousness, the desires of his heart. John 12, 1-8 says, 6 days before the Passover ceremonies began, Jesus arrived in Bethany to the home of Lazarus, the man he had raised from the dead. A dinner was prepared in Jesus' honor. Martha served, and Lazarus sat at the table with him. Then Mary took a 12-ounce jar of expensive perfume made from the essence of nard, and she anointed Jesus' feet with it and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with fragrance. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, the one who would betray him, said, "That perfume was worth a small fortune. It should have been sold, and the money given to the poor." Not that he cared for the poor. He was a thief who was in charge of the disciples' funds, and he often took some for his own use. Jesus replied, "Leave her alone. She did it in preparation for my burial. You will always have the poor among you, but I will not be here with you much longer." What did Mary do that attracted so much attention during the feast? And how did Judas react, and why? What was Jesus' response? The Savior's gentle rebuke to Judas' covetous remark led him to leave the feast and go directly to the palace of the high priest, where Jesus' enemies were gathered. He offered to betray Jesus into their hands for a small sum of money, smaller than Mary's gift. See Matthew 26:14-16. What happened to Judas? Having had so many wonderful opportunities, so many rare privileges, why would he do something so evil? According to Ellen G. White, in the book Desire of Ages, page 716, it says, Judas loved the great teacher and desired to be with him. He felt a desire to be changed in character and life, and he hoped to experience this through connecting himself with Jesus. The Savior did not repulse Judas. He gave him a place among the 12. He trusted him to do the work of an evangelist. He endowed him with power to heal the sick and to cast out devils. But Judas did not come to the point of surrendering himself fully to Christ. In the end, we all have character defects that, if surrendered, can be overcome through the power of God working in us. But Judas did not fully surrender to Christ, and the sin of covetousness, which he could have overcome in the power of Christ, overcame him instead, with tragic results. Who among us doesn't struggle with covetousness over one thing or another? In this case, what he coveted was money, and that covetousness, a problem of the heart, led him to stealing, John 12:6, which ultimately led him to betray Jesus. What a frightful lesson for all of us about the danger that covetousness can bring. What seems like a small thing, a simple desire of the heart, can lead to calamity and to eternal loss. From the book Counsels on Stewardship, page 219 and 220, it says, Judas had valuable qualities, but there were some traits in his character that would have to be cut away before he could be saved. He must be born again, not of corruptible seed, but of incorruptible. His great hereditary and cultivated tendency to evil was covetousness, and by practice this became a habit which he carried into all his trading. He was given every opportunity to receive Christ as his personal Savior, but he refused this gift. He would not yield his way and will to Christ. He did not practice that which was contrary to his own inclinations. Therefore, his strong, avaricious spirit was not corrected. While he continued a disciple in outward form, and while in the very presence of Christ, he appointed to himself means that belonged to the Lord's treasury. And Judas might have benefited by these lessons had he possessed a desire to be right at heart, but his acquisitiveness overcame him, and the love of money became a ruling power. Through indulgence, he permitted his trait in this character to grow and take so deep a root that it crowded out the good seed of truth sown in the heart. And from the book Testimonies for the Church, Volume 4, page 42, it says, "Money was to Judas a continual temptation, and from time to time when he did a little service for Christ, or devoted a little time to religious purposes, he paid himself out of the meager fund collected to advance the light of the gospel. He finally became so penurious that he made bitter complaint because the ointment poured upon the head of Jesus was expensive. He turned it over and over in his mind and counted the money that might have been placed in his hands to expend if that ointment had been sold. His selfishness grew stronger until he felt that the treasury had really met with a great loss in not receiving the value of the ointment in money. He finally made open complaint of the extravagance of this expensive offering to Christ. Our Savior rebuked him for his covetousness. This rankled in the heart of Judas until, for a small sum of money, he consented to betray his Lord. There will be those among Sabbath keepers who are no truer at heart than was Judas. Have a blessed day.